This is Rachel here again. Today I want to share a couple of verses with you regarding the identity of Jesus Christ. I know when I was witnessing for many years as a witness, Jehovah's Witness, I would go door to door and occasionally meet with other Christians who believed in the Trinity, and usually it was them that would bring it up, and sometimes a fairly emotional discussion would ensue. Usually they would get quite emotional and feel deeply offended that I did not believe Jesus was God, and I used to feel offended that they believed that Jesus was God. So we were both equally offended, but I never really sat down with them and asked them to show to me, from the scriptures why they believed that. Mind you, I'm sure a good many wouldn't be able to do that anyway. It's just what they've been taught at church, and they wouldn't know how to support that from the scriptures. However, I have met some who have been able to explain things, and after I left the witnesses, I used to get into a few Bible discussions with fellow ex-witnesses on the internet. And, we could bring up our questions, unlike in the Kingdom Hall. You can't express any doubt whatsoever in what we've been taught there. But online, it's a different story. I discovered really that the whole subject about the deity of Christ, whether he is God or not, is not the black and white subject that witnesses think it is. I would say it's grey. However, I think the evidence is strongly in favour of the deity of Christ, rather than him being a created angel who became a man on earth. How he could just be fully human, I don't get. What happened to the angel? Anyway, I've made a video about that already, so I won't get into that now. But anyway, there were two verses that were pointed out to me, or I discovered, that I thought would be quite good to show to Jehovah's Witnesses. They're ones that the literature doesn't really expand or elaborate on, and probably because people might start thinking, this is making it sound like Jesus is God. I don't know. Anyway, you might feel differently, but first of all, I just want to read John 1:1-3, that everyone's very familiar with, I'm sure. And then I'm going to follow this up with a verse from Isaiah. So John 1:1-3 says, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was a God. This one was in the beginning with God. All things came into existence through him, and apart from him not even one thing came into existence." Okay. Alright, so very clearly stated there that in the beginning the Word was with God, with him. Now if we go to Isaiah chapter 44, verse 24, we read this. "This is what Jehovah says, your repurchaser, who formed you since you were in the womb. I am Jehovah who made everything. I stretched out the heavens by myself, and I spread out the earth. Who was with me?" See the problem with this? So in John we learnt that the Word was with God in the beginning, but here we see that Jehovah is saying that he stretched out the heavens and spread out the earth, in other words, created everything, by himself. So doesn't the Word even get a mention here? If Jesus in his pre-human existence was Michael the Archangel, why does he not even get a mention here in this verse? And as Proverbs 8 says, the master worker at Jehovah's side. because witnesses will think, or they believe that the wisdom personified is Jesus in his pre-human existence. But yeah, no mention of him here. Okay, I just want to highlight another part of the, what John wrote here in verse 3. So John 1:3, it says, all things came into existence through him, that's the word, and apart from him, not even one thing came into existence. Now, I'd never really thought much about this verse as a witness, because really what it's saying is that everything that came into being, or everything that came into existence, was through Jesus, or through the Word. But if Jesus himself was a created being, then did he make himself? If you don't quite get what I'm saying, I'll just read to you how that verse is rendered in some other Bibles. This is my old King James Bible. So John 1:3 says, all things were made by him, so it's talking about the Word, and without him was not anything made that was made. Okay. And in the, I think it's the today's English version, verse 3 says, through him God made all things. Not one thing in all creation was made without him. Can you see what I'm saying here? That, I mean, if Jesus himself was a creation, but it says here that everything that was created, everything that came into existence that was created, came through Jesus. The Word was made through him. So these verses really show that Jesus is not a created thing, that he didn't have a beginning. That's really what it's saying. Witnesses may refer to Colossians 1:15 and 16, however. Which kind of says the same thing. Well, it would do if the organisation hadn't rendered those verses in the New World Translation to make it sound like something different. So I'll just read Colossians. Sorry, I thought I had a marker in here. So Colossians 1:15. He is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of all creation, because by means of him all other things were created in the heavens and on the earth, the things visible and the things invisible, whether they are thrones or lordships or governments or authorities. All other things have been created through him and for him. Also he is before all other things, and by means of him all other things were made to exist. Okay, so I read up to verse 17, and if I put this up here, and you can see where the word other is. In the New World Translation prior to this revision, the word other was in brackets. But here they've removed the brackets, which suggests that in the original Greek there was a wording there that suggested the word other. But that is not actually the case. I will show you from, this is the one that came before the 2013 revision of the New World Translation. And you will find here that the word other, if you look down here, the word other is in brackets. And it explains in here why the brackets were added, or why the brackets are there. See down the bottom of here? So brackets enclose words that are inserted, so inserted by the translator to complete the sense in the English text. So having removed the brackets from this is really quite dishonest, isn't it? And it gives the wrong impression. Because if you were to read those verses, actually I'll have a look and see, I'll see what it says in the interlinear for Colossians. Yeah. So if you read in here directly from the Greek into the English, you know how it has the Greek and then the English directly underneath, and then this is the New World Translation rendering. So if we look at the direct translation into English, it says, "Who is image of the God, the invisible, firstborn of all creation, because he in him it was created that all things in the heavens and upon the earth, the things visible and the things invisible, etc., etc. All things through him and into him it has been created. And he is before all things, and that in all things in him it has stood together." So that probably didn't really make much sense to you. However, the word other things isn't there. It doesn't say other. Yet, here, where is it? They add the word other. So, if you take that word other out though, how would it read? Let's have a look in, I'll have a look at my King James. So, who is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of every creature? For by him were all things created that are in heaven and that are in earth, visible and invisible, whether they be thrones or dominions or principalities or powers. All things were created by him and for him. And he is before all things, and by him all things consist. Okay, so he's saying that it's saying here that by him all things were created that are in heaven. So witnesses believe though that the Word, Jesus, is a created thing in heaven. But all created things in heaven were made by the Word. So the Word cannot be a created thing. I hope you're following this. So it's very interesting, isn't it? And like I was saying, that these verses aren't ones that were really given very thorough consideration in the organisation and in the literature. I don't recall really looking at those, even though they're right there in front of us and we would read them all the time. Another thing that I wanted to raise with any witnesses watching this is, well, Jehovah God is supposed to be spirit, right? And obviously he existed before the creation of the universe, which involved the creation of space and time as well, didn't it? So this places Jehovah outside of the restrictions of space and time. Space and time, things that he created, shouldn't control him, should they, or restrict him in any way. And you'll be familiar with the verse in the Bible that says that all things are possible with God. Also, you do believe that his name, which you use the name Jehovah, but it could be, you acknowledge it could be Yahweh or something else even. But the meaning of his name is that he that causes to become, or I shall be what I shall prove to be. And the literature explains that Jehovah God has the ability and the power to become whatever he needs to become to accomplish his purposes. Now, that being the case, what if Jehovah God needed to become a perfect human being in order to provide a sacrifice for sinful human beings, to redeem them? Would that be beyond his ability to do that? If he is this immensely powerful being outside of the universe and not restricted by space and time, physical limitations, atoms, would it not be possible for him to do that? Even at the same time, existing in heaven and on earth? Would that be impossible for him? Just because we can't, can we really try to put our limited understanding of physics, the material world, and what's logical in the material world, can we really restrict Jehovah God with those things? So, yeah, I thought that was quite interesting to think about that. I think, sadly, witnesses have no toleration for views of other people. Like, they quite condescending in a way towards those other professed Christians who believe that Jesus is God, or they believe in the Trinity. And witnesses will, in their very black and white thinking, condemn them, in their minds at least, as being false Christians and imitation Christians. But I think that's a very unfair thing to do, because the scriptures, you can find scriptures to back up your understanding that Jesus is not God. And you can find scriptures to back up Jesus being God. But then, we can't apply just our human logic and reasoning, can we? We can't limit God to what we can understand. I think that's about all I was going to say. But if you want, comment in the comments below and tell me what you think about those verses, whether you think they would make witnesses think a little more. And I'll leave it there. Bye.